grab the URL here. Oops. Okay, cool. Let me just send out necessary tweets on LinkedIn bits and pieces, and then we'll kick off the event. Okay, right, lovely. Okay, let's see if we get Restream up. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another one of our Automation Week live streams. So, a few things to be aware of. First of all, I am just getting over a cold, so my voice isn't fantastic at the moment. So you're going to have to excuse me a little bit when it comes to my switching this back. Hello everyone. Okay. Hello everyone. So for some reason my my microphone on my my normal headset is not working. Let's try one last switcheroo. How about that? There we go. Just wasn't plugged in properly. Ah, foolish. Yes. Yeah, so my voice is a little bit wobbly at the moment, but hopefully I should be able to soldier on. Sadly, we don't have Richard with us today. He is indisposed, so it's just going to be myself doing tonight's automation challenge, which, let's cancel some of these bits and pieces. We're going to be looking at the pipeline challenges. So let's get them up and take a look at them and get more of a sense of what it is that we're going to be looking at tonight. Oh, I'm so sorry for all the coughing that's going to come and the very squeaky, scratchy voice that's going to be happening. So let's go to Automation Week. So for our last session, we had a look at the exploratory testing challenges and had some fun with the man in the middle proxy, which was quite cool. But yeah, this time we are going to look at the build pipelines challenges. Now, again, we're doing this with RESTful Booker platform, which we can find here. Yep. So RESTful Booker platform is an application I've built. So I've actually built a pipeline for this already. So this may seem like I'm cheating a little bit, but what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use this as an opportunity to explore some new tooling. So my thinking is that rather than go for the original approach that I've used before, which is Circle CI, I'm going to try GitHub Actions, because I think GitHub Actions is I get the impression that it's a tool that is trying to compete with Circle CI, so I thought it'd be quite cool to take a look. So taking a step ahead of myself, let's look at the challenges that we want to do. So there's 3 challenges here. Create a pipeline that builds the RESTful book of projects. So if you look in the code base, you'll see there's actually quite a few different. So this is a mono repo for multiple APIs. And yeah, we want to see if we can build something that could actually trigger off the builds for each of these. Then we've got another one that builds it but also runs the tests. So that's going to be interesting, because some of the tests will be run as standard because they're part of the Maven build lifecycle. But there are other tests that that we might be able to get running, specifically ones that run visual checks that run with Applitools. So the challenge, I think, will be is if we can get those 2 running. I think the challenge 3 that creates a continuous deployment pipeline so that changes are immediately released when the build succeeds. I think that might be a step too far for this hour's stream. So we're going to aim for number 1, and I'm hoping that we'll have some success with that. And then see how we get on in running number 2. Right. So yes, that's going to be interesting. I do have the Restream chat up, so if you want to drop any suggestions or any guidance, or just say a little hello and stuff, keep me company while we're doing this stream, that'll be great. Especially as you can tell, I'm going to be struggling with a lot of the talky bits, but we're going to have fun. It's going to be great. Let's just see how we get on. So I have a little bit of experience with GitHub Actions, because I have actually done it I've implemented it in a different tool, which is RESTful Booker, which is my single API, like standalone API that you can practice API testing against. And that's deployed on Heroku, so I wanted to create a workflow, a GitHub Actions workflow for that API, so that if I ever made any changes on main, it would just immediately execute the workflow, and away we go. So yeah, so I know at least enough that we need to create a GitHub folder, sorry, we need a YAML file inside there. So the first thing I'm going to do is, because I don't really want to screw around too much with the Circle CI setup at the moment, we're going to create a new branch. And I seem to remember that there are specific branches that you can use with GitHub Actions, and some you can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make it nice and simple and plain and easy, and I'm just going to create a branch called main, because I use trunk for RBP, but if we create one called main, hopefully that should just trigger the GitHub Actions stuff for us. So let's start with that. And just make sure we don't have any issues. I think we're all up to date. Oops. Cool. So let's check out main, git check out main. Cool. So I'm going to use Visual Studio. And let's open the project up, and let's just dive in, start getting things set up. So as I said, I know a little bit about GitHub Actions because I've explored it before in the past, but the documentation's pretty good. So GitHub Actions, you can see lots of like questions around how to use this thing already searched. But yes, so this is where I remember starting with last time. So clicking on here took me to the guides and stuff, which was pretty cool. So it got me sort of started quite quickly. So a few things about RESTful Booker and how it's built, and what it's consisting of. Um, we have a bunch of web APIs that are written in Java and use Spring Boot as like the main tooling. So well, we can look at the languages here. We can see like predominantly it's Java based with a bit of JavaScript in there. So APIs are built in Java, and I'm using Maven as my build tool, my sort of project management tool. So we can see POM XML files here, and then we've got ones for each of these APIs that sort of are responsible for all the bits and pieces. And because they're all basically these are all sort of sub projects within my monorepo, I've tied them all together with this POM XML file. So what this means is that this doesn't really do too much. As you can see, as a POM file, it's pretty straightforward. So I can actually just drop in all of my APIs as modules here. So predominantly we're in the Java space, but to put a spanner in the works, which is going to make this interesting, is that the front end is actually built in JavaScript. So I need Node for that, and I have to use Node.js to basically build the front end, compile it all into JavaScript, and then send it to the assets API. So we've got two different build processes that we need to do to get this whole thing built. But I think those are the challenges. Let's crawl before we can walk, or walk before we can run, or whatever the analogy is. And let's just see if we get something up and running. So the first thing that actually really jumped out to me was the building and testing with Java and Maven. So yeah, this is, excuse me. So this kind of looks very similar to what I've looked at on previous versions like when I've done previous iterations of GitHub workflows. So we need to create a folder first called GitHub.github. And then inside that, we need to create a file called workflows. I believe we have to call it workflows. You can add this workflow by creating a new file then. Oh no, so it is. It's a folder called workflows. Nice one. Okay, cool. So we've got that. Then we want to, let's call this the build.yaml file. And let's just copy all of this in. So let's go for Java build. So as far as I can remember, the idea is that, so this is just the name of your job. On is the trigger, so you can have different triggers, so like pushes, I think things like pull requests, on hooks, and yeah, various events that happen within the sort of GitHub lifecycle can be fired off there. And then you basically you clarify everything in your job section. So runs on Ubuntu latest, so I guess that's setting up our environment. The uses is, I guess this is this is probably the commands, or like the engine of actions that we're taking advantage of. So we need to change this first, this setup JDK 1.8, because we actually use 14. So I want to change that to 14. And then the build with Maven, and this is where we're actually going to do the main process. So I'm going to change this, and I am going to cheat a little bit. So I know for a fact that in these build locally files that we've got the Maven command that we can trigger that will actually trigger off the building of all of the different um, components, different APIs. But specifically, I wanted to steal this one here because I don't want the visual tests to run at the moment because we haven't set any of that up at all. Um, so yeah, Maven install, that's going to do all the installation process for us. I'll do a Maven clean install actually for now, although I need to keep an eye on that for later. But yeah, with that should run everything, but it shouldn't try and run the asset stuff. Now, I am kind of expecting the assets build to fail in this, so I don't think that this is going to pass. Although, to be honest, in my experience with these sort of things, I never really expect them to pass straight away anyway. Yes, so I expect it to fail on the assets thing, like the assets build, because I haven't built the front end and sent all of the files to assets. So like if I open this up, you can see it's a JS folder and an API folder. So the JS folder builds the front end, like all the JavaScript, all the React components, the CSS, the HTML, all that sort of stuff. And then it sends it to a folder in the API project so that when the API is built, it builds it with all of the assets in place. But let's see how we get on with this to begin with. So let's add that in. So git commit the message, initial setup of GitHub actions. So if we do git push origin main, okay, so that's been pushed up. So with that done, I should be able to just refresh and somewhere on this page I should oh yeah, there, actions. I should see actions running. Hey, okay, cool. So this is a good start. Means I've put the YAML file in the right place. Initial setup of GitHub actions main. So I can click into this and I can actually see what's running. So it's saying one in progress job. So the build. Cool. So it's set up. Hey, oh cool. So it's running. It's a bit frustrating that you have to keep scrolling down. Like you can't just keep following it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Cool. So we just let this run for a minute. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll let that run. And while that's running, let's think about the next step, like I said, which is that whole the whole section where we build the front end first. Oh, crikey. Throat is on fire. So, building and testing with Node.js. So, what this is kind of cool is I think we can actually put multiple jobs in. But actually, looking at this, the runs on Ubuntu latest, we're running on Ubuntu latest here as well. So I'm wondering if we can just drop in the strategy matrix thing, and can we just add some steps? What version of Node am I on? 12. So let's drop the 8 point and 10 point because we don't really care about those. Okay, and then it's saying so uses actions name. Okay, let's try this. So I'm copying some bits here. So we're going to take the name, use Node.js, uses the actions, set up node. Oh, I see. So we take the actual. So this is like a variable that we're actually dropping in here. And then the actual job runs after that. So let's see if we can run all this beforehand. Just get this all cleaned up, because otherwise we'll get bit in the bottom by we'll get bit in the ass by it all failing, because it needs to all be formatted correctly. So name uses. Okay, cool. Right. So what I'm hoping here now is let's go back here. So we got a failure. Why did we get a failure? Oof, oof, it's so big. It can't deal with the output. Let's have a look, see what it says. Oh, oh. So this is probably not the most, well, the easiest way to view these logs. Build failure. Yes, cool. All right, awesome. That's good. So yeah, so this failed because there is no front end for there's no JavaScript in HTML and CSS for the assets to serve. So hopefully this next iteration, um, it should just be a case now. Should, such a such a hopeful word. But hopefully with this, now that I've got the npm and the node stuff in place, that should build the front end first, ship that over to the assets API, and then it should build. Right, so let's give that a go. Git status. Actually, I'm wondering, because I'm a little concerned that this is not formatted very well. Is there a YAML lint out there that I can... Yeah. So let's put this in. Cool. Right. Because there's nothing worse than committing some invalid YAML. It's very irritating. So adding in node, oh, no, front end, actually JS assets building to GitHub Actions. Okay, let's push that. Lovely, that's been pushed up. Cool, so if we go back to the actions page, we should see added in JS assets. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Unexpected value node version. Okay, so let's remove that stuff, because that just feels like that's noise. Let's go back. Why did that? Why did it not like that? But let's look at the template here. Well, that seems a bit odd. I wonder if we just expand the list. Maybe that was because me messing around with that caused issues. Uses. Oh, maybe we need to keep this still. So I noticed that's at the top. Then it does the use Node.js. Then the use setups with Node version. Then run npm CI. Okay, cool. Let's see if that works. Let's see if those tweaks help. Cool. Okay. So let's just clear this so you can see it a bit clearer. So git commit, tweaking, JS build settings. Okay. Oh, hasn't failed yet. Says to me that. Ooh. All right. So yeah. Okay. So it's doing it's doing 3 different builds. Ah, right. Okay. Cool. Right. So a few things to deal with here. First of all, there you go. Yeah. Sorry. So first of all, we don't need this to run 3 times. So let's kill those node versions to that. So what I'm assuming is we're in the root directory at the moment. So I think what we need to do is we actually need to do like a CD into the assets.js folder. So we do CD assets.js, and then we need to make sure that before we come back here, we do run cd dot dot slash dot dot. Okay, so it failed basically because it's trying to run npm in somewhere where there's no npm to run, basically. So hopefully adding in that CD will get us to the right folder. So removed, unneeded. So 2 ends in unneeded? I don't know. Removed node versions we don't need. Don't need. And added correct to run it. Cool. I find this is one of the most frustrating things about working with these types of tools. So whether it's GitHub Actions or if it's Circle CI, because it's all done by a third party, you spend quite a lot of time doing lots of small atomic commits to one file, which I feel like it just really screws up your commit history and makes it a lot uglier. So this is why I like to do this sort of stuff in branching structures, so that when I merge that branch in, I can actually just squish it all down into one commit. Okay, so I did something wrong here. Run is already defined. Okay, cool. So we're not allowed to do that. Oh, you silly fool, Mark. So maybe I need to go. Oh, dearie me. Let's try that. So git commits, fixed, broken, run command. I mean, the temptation to start writing sarcastic commit messages and stuff is always very strong. Let's see if that caused any issues. Okay, cool. So that seems to be behaving. Oh, dearie me. That's annoying. So it didn't CD me to the right place. Okay, so let's go GitHub Actions directory. Change directory. Have a little look-see, see what we can find. Working directory. Aha, so we can set a working directory. So name run working directory. So let's give that a try. So let's tweak this. So we can say run npm install working directory. And that should be assets.js. And then we add the same thing here. Remove this because it's not, we don't need to cd back because we're all right in that space. Yeah, let's see how that works. So let's just find out a bit more about that just before. Oh, that's annoying. Always concerning. Incorrectly documented. Let's see, just see if we get another one here. Stack Overflow. Okay, I feel cautiously optimistic that this will work for us. So let's try adding it. Let's go back to our actions. Okay. Good start. Job setting up. Got the right node. Oh, that didn't fail straight away, so that looks good. It's looking optimistic. Keep going, keep going. I picked a hell of a challenge to have to pad time with a sore throat. Okay. Also, just to add to the challenge of tonight as well, I've not brought down my charger for my laptop. So either I will finish on the hour or my laptop will die. We shall see. Cool. Okay, so I think that working directory's actually done what it should do because, yep, so that's the build. Okay, all right, so we're running Maven now. So the question is whether or not the assets bit is going to pass. Let's close this down. We'll just let it run. And let's check. So create a pipeline that builds the RESTful book of projects. So if this passes, I'm going to call it and say that this was a success. It's interesting because I quite like this so far. Like in terms of compared to what I've got running in Circle CI. So while we're waiting for that, let's have a little look at that. So the Circle CI stuff. This is the wrong project. Is quite massive. So as a config, so I have done things kind of different for this one. So for every folder, there is a um, there is a build. So the idea being is that if I only commit something to the report folder, for example, then it doesn't try to build everything else. It just builds the report build, which is, yeah, can work quite nicely. Because the way the pipeline works, actually, if we'll take a little look at it, is that so you get a nice visualization here. So the idea being is that I can run. So run is actually sort of like do the build and the tests. Then this is the um, building of the Docker image, which is then shoved up to Docker Hub. And then here is where I connect to my AWS instance and tell it to download the latest version from Docker Hub. And then we have some end-to-end checks at the end. And the idea being is that checking out the code, it'll inspect which of these APIs has actually had code committed to it. Then it will only run those builds and ignore the other ones. So it means that I don't end up deploying everything again. So I just deploy the images that I have, the Docker images that I have changed, and I leave the other ones up and running. So trying to be a bit more granular with my process. Okay, so we got a failure again. Let's see why it failed. Oh dear me. It is quite slow to open though. There we go. All right. Keep scrolling, just keep scrolling all the way to the bottom. Well, this is very frustrating. I don't like this. Okay, so you failed. So yeah, so it's basically it's expecting this HTML, but it's not received it. So something went wrong in that build process. Oops. npm run build. Let's have a look. Come on. Oh, let's just refresh the page and give it another go. Oh, I know why. Oh, silly Mark. After I said I shouldn't get myself caught out, it's because I ran clean. So, um, so the problem with clean is clean removes all of your target folders from all your projects. But what I'm doing with this npm run build is I'm actually creating, I'm injecting some content into a target folder. So what was happening was by removing that clean, I was actually trashing the work that had been done here. So this had all like it done its installation, it built everything, copied it across, and then I was deleting it and then running the build, which was very silly. So let's see if that fixes that. Even no longer cleans before build. So yeah, I need to think about how maybe I could use something like actions to actually trigger off specific builds again, much like I have done with CircleCI. So let's see who's on. So we'll let that run. I feel quite confident that that's actually going to resolve the problem. So I'm going to start thinking about moving on to number 2. So we'll start by introducing the running of tests for this. This feels quite ugly. I wonder if I can do something like and npm test and then build. But then I suppose trying to shove everything into one runtime or one part of a job means that you don't necessarily get great feedback um, from that sort of, like if everything's under the same header, then that header is always going to fail. When actually we want to be a bit more specific and clearer in our intent in terms of what has failed and what hasn't. So let's leave this to run for a little longer. Okay, so we're running again. Let's close some of these down. I feel like one thing I've not done, which Richard nailed when he did a few more of the Appium based challenge stuff with his live streams, is he had some music on in the background. I think I should have gone with that approach. Because as is the case when with some of this stuff, there's a lot of waiting to see how far down the build it goes. Okay. Where are we up to? So we're on room, and that's running. I must say it's very fast. That's one thing you like. Given that this is free for me to use, um, it's very impressive how fast it is actually, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I think that was report. Now we're onto branding, which I think just leaves assets after that. Let's have a look. Branding. Oh, message, then assets. So that's branding running. Cool. So yeah, now we're on to message. Should be fairly quick because it's not a very big API, not that sophisticated. Lovely. It's all looking good. Brilliant. Okay, so we must be getting close now to, yeah, we're definitely into the assets space. I wish it would stick to the bottom though. That really is frustrating. Tests are skipped. Build success. Hooray. Build success. Um, let's have a little look at that. So 2 minutes 41 seconds to run the whole of that build thing, and actually like less than a minute to do the install and building on that side is pretty cool as well. Yep, so build success, all good, looking very, very swift indeed. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's we've got sort of 10 15 minutes left, so let's add those node tests in there. Git add, git commit, added in JS tests. And push that up. And Head back over to here, into our actions again, adding in JS tests. So no artifacts. Now this is interesting because I'm wondering if I could actually do something like where I could have all the jar files. So rather than doing all the Docker craziness, I could just have the jar files and just have them running. That would be very interesting. Because for me, like Docker is like I like Docker. I think it's a very powerful tool, but I think the way that I'm using it is a bit overkill for RBP. If I could have some way that just pulls the jar files down and runs them, because I think if you're running all of your Docker images on one system, which is what I'm doing, rather than doing something like with Kubernetes or some other sort of orchestration, it just feels a little overkill. Cool. So we're seeing some of the tests pass here as well. Oh, one snapshot failed. Oh, ooh, which failed. Okay, cool. So this is not good, but also good. Okay. This is likely because this test, so new snapshot was not written. The update flag must be explicitly pastorized. Snapshot. Ah. Well, given that I wasn't expecting this to fail at all, that is very interesting. But only one failed. Let's see what happens when we run them locally. Have I done something daft like broken the checks and then not bothered to fix them? So let's run them here. Again, a lot of waiting to see what will happen. Cracky, these are slow. So that passed. So why is that failed here, but not locally? Excuse me. So when in doubt, go to bed. Now I do know that some of these JavaScript checks can actually be a bit flaky at times. Let's see. So I'm just going to go for a rerun and see what happens. So let's see what happens here. So one thing I like about Circle CI is that if you have a job that fails, you can rerun it with SSH access, which is really handy because you can actually go into the box and take a look around, see what's happening, see if there's, if it's something environmental. You can go in and run your tests and diagnose them inside the box, which I think is a very valuable little trick. Okay. Okay, the same one failed again. Now this is an interesting thing with this snapshot stuff. So with the snapshot stuff, it's comparing two things, but it's difficult for me to actually see what has, because it's saying received and got. But fortunately, I have a tool that can help me with this diff merge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two files. So let's copy and paste all this. Let's create a new file. We'll call this one received.txt. Yeah, you see, I thought I would get. Didn't really show anything. They're different in there. That's a bit annoying. Well, so let's have a look. So we can actually look at the snapshot that it was trying to compare against in here. So this is the branding test. So we're going to snapshots, branding test, JS snap. Which one is the one that failed? It says that branded snapshot page, branding page has controlled form. Let's see if we can find that word. I do not see that in here, so branding page has controlled form. Can't see that because there's that. But if we go into the branding test instance to update. So that's confusing. Oh, no, what? So it's saying expect receive to match snapshot. Where is this failing? Set timeout, line 49. But that's a different test. So it's and then another one's failed over here. Oh, I've ended up with actually two have failed this time. Well, that's interesting. I have no idea why those are failing. But I feel, given that my throat is about to completely give out on me, and actually tomorrow's challenge is actually going to be looking at JavaScript unit checks, we could use that as an opportunity to come back and look at some of this stuff. So we're going to leave it there. I would say that this challenge, the creator pipeline that builds the RESTful Booker projects, was a success. I have no idea why it runs on my machine but fails on the other books. But I am aware of the fact that these are quite flaky checks. So I think we'll just have to come back to them tomorrow and have a bit of a play. But yeah, the first one was a success, and we really weren't that far off with that. If we could get those checks running, then most of that would be running. We'd need to look into some of the Appler tools and Source Labs side of things. But that might be an interesting live stream of its own, maybe after Automation Week. So I hope you enjoyed that. Once again, sorry Richard couldn't be with us, and also the fact that my voice is very broken. You know, these things happen, but we're all very excited and pumped for Automation Week that's coming up this week. There's going to be lots of cool stuff. As for myself and Richard, we shall be looking at JavaScript and React, and we will be doing it from 11 till 12 tomorrow or on Monday, and that is UK time, which is now back to GMT because our clocks went back. Anyway, that's me for tonight. I hope you enjoyed that, found it useful. If you want to see more of these live streams and stuff, please subscribe to us on YouTube and click the bell. And we're very much enjoying these for Automation Week, so maybe we'll think about doing some more of these streams in the future. Anyway, that's it from me tonight, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.